Today I will discuss a bit on how you actually can secure your data and files in this AI age of threats coming from AI, right? Okay, I believe everyone uses browser to work nowadays, right? A lot of super apps has already turned into web accessible applications, right? That's how we work today, right? The first thing I turn on is my browser, right? So that actually help you save a lot of time, right? By not installing clients, updating of the clients and so forth, right? That also bring forth some problems, right? Where hackers knows that and they target the web application where they know that, hey, everybody is using the browser, right? So why not exploit and actually attack the browser itself? And how are you actually securing your browser, which is the windows to the internet, right? Which brought upon, a lot of loopholes, CV from the browser itself, right? How are you protecting that, right? So today I'll discuss a bit on how you can actually secure your browser, right? And also files from anywhere, right? From internet, from emails, from your file sharing platform like SharePoint, OneDrive, Microsoft O365 email, all that, right? Okay, so for Menlo itself, right, we focus very much on isolation technology. It's built from ground up, right? So, since 12 years ago, right, we started the isolation technology. Of course, a lot has grown, right? Now we talk about secure workspace and how you actually secure your environment using the isolation technology. And that's how we come forth, and we can actually turn any browser into a secure enterprise browser, meaning to say through the isolation, there's actually a surrogate browser in the cloud itself. So your own browser actually connects to the browser itself. So in short, all the active contents will execute in the cloud. Meaning to say if there's any ransomware, any JavaScript that builds and compile files into a ransomware file, it will execute in the cloud. That's how Menlo can actually detect, and we call it the zero trust network environment, right? So this, of course, I can discuss in detail. It will take very long, but if you are interested, of course, we can have a deep dive session of how this can actually help your environment. In short, these are some of the features that can do, right? We can even stop 0-hour phishing sites, right? Which I believe not very many vendors out there say that, hey, I can stop 0-hour phishing site. It's because of the AI technology and the isolation technology that we can identify using machine vision, right? Computer vision technology in the cloud itself. That's how we can actually stop the 0-hour phishing, right? Okay. So basically, this is the full suite, right? So today I'll discuss more on the threat prevention piece and also how you can actually use it to prevent any kind of threats coming in from both files, right, and the network environment. Okay, so threat protection. Yeah, as you know that these are the attacks that is happening out there, right? A lot of SASE, EDR solution all relies on signature, right? It's good, it's important, right? But of course, with a prevention technology, that's where you can actually stop attacks very early in a cyber kill chain, right? Rather than, you have to respond, right? You detect based on signature, then you have to clean your malware files, etc., etc. But if you can prevent it, right? Why not you do it at the early stage? Preventing it is better than detection and cure, right? So this is what we focus on, right? Zero trust, network security, and also file security. Okay, so this is basically the Menlo cloud itself, right? Of course, we isolate all the session, and the surrogate browser in the cloud actually execute all the content. That's why anything that's coming through from the left to the right in the environment, we can use any soft browser and go to internet, and all the code will be executed in the cloud itself, right? So whatever you receive here is actually passive content that contain no threats at all, right? So this is how Menlo actually works. I will focus on file sanitization today, which is the CDR. How many of y'all have heard of CDR? Content, disarm, and reconstruction. That's actually a file security solution where we allow zero trust environment to files, right? Emails, file sharing platform, that's what a CDR do. So I will discuss in details on this, right? I won't touch too much on the Menlo cloud, right? Okay, so the hidden threats, evolving malicious file. At this juncture of time, you'll be receiving files every day through your email. You have all your email threat protection system, right? That comes in, you sandbox, you AV scan the files before you put in your mailbox, right? Of course, you have your spam protection, like, you actually check for the email whether they contain spam links or so forth, right? Phishing links, right? So files, how are you actually protecting against this kind of threats? Zero-day malware in the files, files containing remote code execution or remote links execution, right? Threat protection system doesn't actually stop that, right? When you open a PDF file, a document file, it asks you to click the link, right? When you click the link, it goes into a site, download a malware, and inject into your PC itself. That's where you have ransomware, and the remote hacker can actually do something, right? Be it encrypting your file, controlling your file, your system. That's what is actually happening, right? These are some of our customers worldwide, right? So you have Singapore, government agency using it, right, to actually sanitize all the files incoming, be it from email or their file sharing services, right? One of the very good use case that a very big customer of mine, right, is actually a port, right, where shipping lines, their container ship comes in, they have to send reports out to the database, right, the container reports and so forth, right? And these files, right, is from third party, by contractor. Their system is not actually controlled by the port itself, right? How are you ensuring those files are totally clean without malware? It's quite hard to do it, right? So they actually uses our system, we call it the CDR system, and actually sanitize the file before it's actually put into the database itself. So this is one of the very good use case. They have more than so many 10 billions of files being processed, right? That's how fast the system is, and it's able to sanitize everything and zero trust the file, right? These are all defense systems, right? Based on signature to actually scan for a file, to sandbox a file, right? One thing about sandboxing a file is, yes, it actually execute a file, but what if the hackers is very, very smart, right? They actually do a delayed execution, right? Within a sandbox itself, probably about 5-10 minutes you execute, but they delay the execution, meaning you say, when you double click on a file, you only execute 1 hour later and inject the code into your system. Also, a sandbox can never detect that because within 5 minutes, there's no execution of code, right? So these are the things that is happening out there. And this is how a lot of companies actually got ransomware attack because of all this, be it zero-day malware, remote code execution, bypassing of sandboxing in the email security system. So you may ask, how am I going to prevent that kind of threats coming into my environment? You don't want to one day, be the headline of, the news saying, hey, I got ransomware, I got to pay some amount of money to the hackers, right? So basically, this is just a threat analysis where there's more than 450,000 new malicious programs every day, right? So this is what is happening out there. And how is your company actually protect the threats that's coming in to the environment itself, right? So these are just some of the reports that's out there. I believe most of you all have known this, right? Okay, this is actually the cyber kill chain itself. I discussed about that just now, where by the time you react using the antivirus signature, is more of here. What if I tell you I can actually stop the attack very, very early stage using a prevention technology, right? That's where our CDR is, right? What it does is it actually go into the binary form of the file and sanitize it and remove any sort of threats or execution within the file before passing it to your endpoint. Then we don't have to react. By the time it's here, it's too late already, right? You have to react, you have to restore from backup, you have to scan for the virus, you have to delete the file, format the file, etc., right? So we want to stop it early, right? By the time there, it's actually a zero trust stop, right? So in Votiro, we can do browser protection with a plugin. We can do your emails, right, to sanitize the email files that's coming into your mailbox itself, and of course the RBI integration. This can be integrated with, example, the Menlo secure cloud browser and any other vendor that you may already using now, right? Any kind of proxy solution, SASE solution, we are able to integrate also, right? So of course, the S3 bucket, file transfer, and application to application control, right? Let's say you have a developer developing application for you, maybe custom application, and they transfer file between two applications. You can actually use the API control to actually sanitize the file, right? Okay, let's go to the detail of how this works, right? A CDR stands for Content Disarm and Reconstruction, right? Long time ago, there's this vendor who only converted it to PDF. Of course, right? You print as PDF, there won't be any more virus, right? But you cannot use the file anymore. You cannot edit the file anymore, right? Then there's the level 2 where they remove the macro of the file. By removing the macro, there are some useful tools or macro that you have written that you want to use, right? You cannot use it anymore. That's not very useful. So Votiro is actually at the level 3, where we have this patented positive selection technology. Is patent, right? So nobody can copy, right? So all the macro will still remain, right, in the files that is being sanitized, right? And how we do it, right? Look at this. This is actually our positive selection technology. A file comes in. We talk about a Word document, right? We can recognize more than 200 plus file type, right? It actually contains XML, bin, JPEG, etc., to form out a Word document, right? We know the template. What we do is we pull out the information that matches the template and put it in a new template. Anything that is unknown, right, like maybe a malware, a remote code execution will be left behind, right? The new files will be a full file that is being sanitized, that doesn't contain anything foreign out of that particular template, in this case, a Word document. So this is a technology of how we can do a 0-day file protection for your organization, right? This happened within like 0.something second to 2 seconds, right? Depend on how big is the file, right? Right. So this actually create a file that is 100% safe. I don't need signature anymore because I use a file template. I pull correct information or things that match into a template of a Word document and put it in a new template, leaving behind anything that is foreign. That is why I call it's a 0-day file security. Okay. We have more than 200 plus file type. Of course, you talk about exe file, we don't sanitize because that doesn't have a proper format, right? That's why all these have a proper format. That's how we can actually sanitize all these kind of file. Okay. So any of this file passes through your email, passes through your file sharing, like SharePoint, OneDrive, it will be automatically sanitized. There's no need for you to install any client, right? Of course, we do have the extension if you do not have this kind of file sharing, right? So take for example, Taylor Swift. Now social engineering is very common, right? You know that, hey, you like Taylor Swift. So they'll send you an email. Please click to open to get a free ticket to Taylor Swift concert, right? So what happens? If you click it and your antivirus solution does not have the signature, that will actually inject a code, right, inside your PC. That's where the hackers can actually do some things, right? But when you passes this through Fortiro CDR, we take only the content that matches the template of a Word document in this case and form a new file, sanitize, and we leave the malware behind, right? Something that I want to talk about, right? If the malware is a 0-day malware and there's no signature, right? Okay, so our system do have antivirus and it cannot detect that malware, but we sanitize the file. 10 days later, the signature is being updated and we detect that, hey, 10 days ago when you send a file across us, there is a malware. So that's actually a win. We call it the retroactive scan. So we tell you that 10 days before, there's a file passing through with that malware. But because of this technology, we actually save your environment from the threat itself, right? Give me a few more minutes. Sorry. Okay, I just want to illustrate the binary form in a file, right? So on the left is actually before sanitization. You can see there's shellcode here, right? After sanitization, the file is still exactly the same, but without the shellcode itself, right? So this is how our sanitization works. We take something that is known and put it into the new file, and anything unknown will be left behind, right? So in the interest of time, I think I will skip through this. This is just basically our new technology, the data detection and response, right? What you do is we can base on DLP and mask the file information. Let's say you have sensitive information in the file that you want to remove. Using our DDR technology, you can actually mask out using the text, right? Meaning you say, I can actually do stuff, right, on sensitive information like phone number, address, and so forth, right? That's actually my last slide. I hope this is actually very useful to you guys, and you know, there's actually a technology called CDR out there, right? We have a booth downstairs, right? If you want to know more, you can actually come and look for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sir Edwin. That was really informative. Thank you so much for talking us through that. It's really important to catch all of these really ahead so you'll be able to address it real time. And speaking of real time, we have a visual summary right here. We have Edwin saying preventing is better than the cure. I guess that applies to everything in life. He also says that where you work is pervasive and personalized. It all starts in the browser. And of course, they have SaaS offerings, which includes browser, email, RBI integration, AWS S3 file transfer, and apps. Now, as Edwin said, if you have more questions regarding these, all you have to do is visit their booth. We'll give you a little bit more time before we start our closing ceremonies for you to be able to go around all of the booths.
Menlo Security has made Zero Trust access easy and more secure with Menlo Secure Application Access. It's the next generation of secure remote access designed for modern applications and a diverse workforce. It's easy to deploy, manage, and use, and it uniquely meets Gartner's stringent security requirements for Zero Trust. Menlo Secure Application Access is designed for today's hybrid workforce, enabling you to support unmanaged devices, contractors, and consultants just as easily as your enterprise users. Here's how it works. For modern web or SaaS applications, users need only a web browser or a browser extension. They log in, they select the application they want to access in the web interface or the browser extension, and that's it, they're up and running. To support legacy applications, a desktop client is available and is just as easy to provision, manage, and use. Menlo Security, Secure the browser and secure the enterprise.